Time is a pretty interesting little concept here. And we've split it up into a bunch of different things. Just looking at the smallest thing we have, which is a second, right? I mean, you could split seconds into tenths of seconds and hundreds of seconds and thousands of seconds and all that, but second is really our smallest one. If you put 60 seconds together, that equals what? Elijah? Yeah, 1 minute. And life would have been a lot easier if they would have put these in tens rather than all this stuff, but I guess if you put 60 minutes together, then you end up with, Elson? 1 hour. And then if you put 24 hours together, you end up with, Lance? 1 day. If you put 7 days together, you end up with, Isabel?
1 week.
1 week. Or if you put 300, what is it, 60, 65 and a quarter or 60, yeah, 365 days together, you end up with 1 year. And then every 4 years we have a 366-day year, which is a leap year. Now here's a question for you. Whoever sat down and invented all this or put all this on paper, what did they base it all on? For example, where does a day come from? I'm sure they must have started with a day and then split that down into smaller parts, but what actually is a day? What physical event happens for 1 day? Ben?
Day and night.
Right, but what is actually happening physically to our world in 1 day?
Spinning.
Yeah, what happens? It spins, makes 1 revolution. 1 revolution of the earth. Okay, we go around make 1 giant big turn. We can't feel it because we're standing on top of it, but the earth zips around 1 whole time to get us in 1 day. Now in 1 year, what happens? 1 day is the earth. Here's our earth. 1 day, the earth goes around 1 time around like this. That's 1. That makes up 24 hours 1 day. In 1 year, Elijah, what happens?
It completes 1 rotation.
Or maybe I should say this. Maybe this is 1 rotation of the earth. Maybe this isn't a revolution. I don't know which one is which. Yeah, this one is what takes us. How long it takes us to go around the sun once? How long to go around the sun once? In other words, here's our Earth, and here's our great big sun. And 1 year is the amount of time it takes the Earth to go. Make the big move around here, and end up back there again. 1 revolution around the sun. And then we have some more things. By the way, they call this, if you ever hear the book called a common year, common year just means a year that's not a leap year. If we stick 10 years together, 10 years is 1 decade. If you put 100 years together, That is, Charlie,
1 century.
1 century. If you put 1,000 years together, that is, we just passed one not very long ago. I guess you wouldn't have been born then, were you? Sorry. I'm sorry, children, you didn't get to experience it. Unfortunately, because there's a big scare that all the computers are gonna crash and yada yada yada. Because nobody thought before the year 2000 to put dates in the computers that were more than 2000. What is 1,000 years called? We don't know. Somebody must know. Milli, 1,000, it's a millennium.
Oh. I knew.
1,000 years is a millennium. We sometimes get this, and these are all the prefixes that the metric system uses. Deca, centa, milli. Sometimes we get that confused with million, but it's not million. Milli means 1,000, like millimeters, 1,000 little guys in the year cut. Take a look in your books on page 172, please. We probably need to talk about this. No, I would leave your paper out. Oh yeah, we still have to talk about a couple other things. On page 172, they show you a calendar there. It says, according to this calendar, June 8th, 2014 is what day of the week? So hopefully you know how to read a calendar so we don't have to go, because if you find the little number 8 there, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the 8 falls in what page?
Sunday.
It is in fact a Sunday. And then write down in your notes this, and when we do time, we also do AM and PM numbers. AM and PM numbers. What's the way you remembered? Anybody? AM times are in the
Morning.
morning. PM is,
Night.
well, afternoon and night. And the one that always gets people kind of messed up is the number 12. We've got two 12 o'clocks that kind of get confusing. One of them we call midnight, one of them we call noon. Let's do noon here. 12 o'clock noon, which it is 20 minutes away from, and 12 o'clock midnight. Which one is AM, which one is PM? Noon that we're coming up on. Which one is AM, which one is PM? Let us see what it is there. Brianna?
12 o'clock noon is PM.
Very good. The PM one is noon. And then when it's really dark out, that is the beginning of the AMs. Elijah?
Is it 100,000 years or beyond?
You know, I don't even know. Is it?
What?
Does it say in here?
Yeah.
I only go by what they give me in the book. It could be. So make sure you know the AMs and the PMs things. Our time is actually a little confusing because, you know, if you say 1:45, nobody knows for sure if you mean that's in the afternoon or at night, unless you put the AM or the PM after it. That's why in the Army, if you go in the Army, yeah, they do military time, which, Ben, how does military time work? Yeah, it uses the 24-hour clock where it works like this. I think they call this 0-100 hours. That is midnight. And then it keeps going 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and so on. You get to 12 o'clock noon, but rather than going back to 1 o'clock, they just keep adding ones to this. So 1300 hours is the same thing as our 1 o'clock PM. Or 1400 hours is the same as our 2 o'clock. You just subtract 12 from that. And the reason for that is if you're in the military, And you have to make big decisions about if you're gonna do fighting, and timing has to be very critical. You don't want somebody, and they do a lot of things at night. You know, if you tell somebody you're supposed to be somewhere at 3 o'clock, and they get the AM and the PM part mixed up, then you're kind of in a world of hurt. So that way, you know, if they say it's 1,500 hours, you know for sure that's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, not 3 o'clock in the morning. So they have to do that just to keep confusion down. Because when you do the kind of things that our military does, you don't want to be somebody mix up by 12 hours or, you know, miss by whatever they're. Lainey?
My mom says when I have a volleyball game, she says like 10 o'clock is like 10 o'clock at night. In the morning. She's like, what do you think?
Oh, you say that or she says that?
She says that.
So when you say you have a volleyball game at 10 o'clock, she says that at night or in the morning? Yeah, see, if you would just say it was at 2,200 hours, then she would know what it is. It'd be 10 o'clock at night. And then look at page 173 there. Hopefully we all got a pretty firm grasp of reading clocks by this time in your life.
Yes.
You know what, turn to page 174, let's switch that. Looking at the practice there, let's just buzz through that pretty quickly here. 4 centuries would be how many years? 4 centuries, Luke?
400.
400. Skip that one. A leap year is how many days? Drew, a leap year is how many days? We just wrote it down. Should be right there in your notes under leap year.
366.
366. What is the name for 1/10 of a century? In other words, if you take 100 years and divide it into 10 equal parts, what would each one be? Isabel?
Decade.
A decade. Well, write the time that is 2 minutes after 8 in the evening. How would you write 2 minutes after 8 in the evening, Grace? 2 minutes after 8.
8.
8:02 what? AM or PM? Evening. PM. 8:02. How about the time that is 8:45? A quarter to 9. A quarter before 9, lady?
8:05.
Is it AM or PM? Morning or night? What's it say?
Night.
Quarter,
AM.
what's that? AM, sure. What else do they have there? How about this, letter K, let's skip right to that one. What time would be shown by the clock 2 hours later? What would be 2 hours later than what that clock shows there? Sarah?
1:25 p.m.
Correct. What about 2 hours earlier? Maddie? Very good, 9:25 a.m. And the last one, the hardest one. The movie started at 3:15 and ended at 5 o'clock p.m. How long was the movie? Now, if you have that problem on your paper, people, I would expect that you write that down. What time did it start?
3:15
And it ended at
p.m.
5 o'clock ending. How long is that movie? How long is that movie? Jan Leach? Oh, Jan? Yeah, I'm sorry. Right, 1 hour, 45 minutes. Again, how would you figure that out? Well, it takes 45 minutes to get to 4 o'clock, and that's 4 o'clock.